don't know that they'd be there for us. They're not there for us on Iceland, that I can tell you. I mean, our stock market took the first dip yesterday because of Iceland. So Iceland's already cost us a lot of money.
Did it stand out to you that he said Iceland multiple times when he was talking about Greenland?
And that every time a windmill turns, it costs $1,000. A lot of stuff stands out. None of this is normalized. There's a normalization of deviancy and consciousness and, comments and commentary. No other president, he's held to the curve. He's graded on a curve. I mean, it's really some jaw-dropping and remarkable statements that just, fly in the face of facts and evidence and common sense.
What's up, everybody? Major Retired Richard Ojeda here. And if Greenland is Iceland, then White House Press Secretary Kaitlan Leavitt must be the traveling toothbrush salesperson, brought in to clean up the nasty taste in everyone's mouth after Donald Trump shits the bed on the world stage.
I'm helping Europe, I'm helping NATO, and I've until the last few days when I told them about Iceland, they loved me. They called me daddy, right, last time. A very smart man said, he's our daddy. He's running it. I was like running it. I went from running it to being a terrible human being. But now what I'm asking for is a piece of ice.
Donald Trump was at Davos, the World Economic Forum. Davos is where heads of state, prime ministers, CEOs, and international institutions gather to talk about global security, trade, climate, technology, and geopolitics. It's not a Trump rally. It's not a Kaitlan Leavitt press stunt. It's not a place to go off script, rambling delusional nonsense.
We're going to help the people in California. We want to have no crime. I know Gavin was here. I used to get along so great with Gavin when I was president. Gavin's a good guy. And we're going to, if he needed it, I would do it in a heartbeat. I'd love to see, we did help them a lot in Los Angeles, a lot with the early in my term when they had some problems. But we would love to do it. I will say this, if I were a Democrat governor or whatever, I would call up Trump. I'd say, come on in, make us look good. Because we're cutting crime down to nothing. And we're taking people out, career criminals, who are only going to do bad things, and we're bringing them back to their countries.
You were obviously named by President Trump during that speech.
Yeah.
What was your reaction to what he had to say about you?
None. I think he said something very different last night. I didn't hear new scum. I heard new green scam. I mean, come on. It was remarkably boring. It was remarkably insignificant. He was never going to invade Greenland. It was never real. So that was always a fade. And so he says, well, we should negotiate. Well, everybody here has been willing to negotiate for a year.
Davos is where the world comes to manage risk and maintain order. Turning it into a Trump rally isn't just awkward or embarrassing, it's destabilizing, and it represents a rupture to world order. Once Trump finished trashing the room, the policy, and the entire moment, the White House sent in the cleanup crew. Kaitlan Leavitt to make excuses, tell lies, and accuse reporters of being biased. It was the same crap, just a different day. Did you really expect anything different?
We probably won't get anything unless I decide to use excessive strength and force where we would be, frankly, unstoppable. But I won't do that. Okay? Now everyone's saying, oh, good. That's probably the biggest statement I made, because people thought I would use force.
You've heard them over and over and over again. Again, for the European audience, that may have been a new speech. My God, there wasn't anything new about that speech for the American audience. The only thing that was new is he said he's willing to negotiate, but wait a sec, that's not new either, because EU's been saying we've wanted to negotiate for over a year.
You criticized world leaders when you got here, saying that some of these European leaders have capitulated to the president.
In the past.
You said you should have brought knee pads. What have you heard from them since then?
A lot. I heard a surprising number say, glad you made those comments. The exact opposite of what you might expect. They needed to hear those comments.
When Donald Trump was on the stage, he didn't just embarrass himself. He embarrassed all of us. Good God, standing in one of the most serious rooms on earth, surrounded by some of the most influential and learned people in the world, he repeatedly referred to Greenland, the place he's openly obsessed with invading right now, as Iceland. Not once, not twice, several times. And you could already hear the excuses forming in MAGA land. Oh, that's just Donald Trump. He's talking hemorrhoids. Will tell you that he didn't mean it. You know what he means. We all know what he means. That's the game they play. This constant stupidity challenge where everyone else is expected to pretend reality didn't just happen. But I think the real questions are the ones sitting in the back of all of our minds. Is Donald Trump even competent? Or is this the moment where people start seriously asking whether the 25th Amendment needs to be invoked? Because Donald Trump is not the stable genius that Caroline Leavitt and MAGA tries to make him out to be. And when you see Caroline Leavitt try to tell us that what we all saw with our own eyes and heard with our own ears wasn't real, it makes you stop and ask, who exactly does she think she's talking to? Because Libby Dean pointed it out plainly. Trump referred to Greenland as Iceland multiple times. It was on tape. It was broadcast around the world, and instead of admitting there was a problem, that bargain bin BS Barbie went on her usual rampage, trying to make the reporter look stupid, confused, like she was the problem. No, Caroline. The reporter isn't confused, and we're not confused. World leaders aren't confused either. What's confusing is why you're still standing there, day after day, shoveling the same old bullcrap. We all saw what we saw, and no amount of spin can change that. And that's when this stops being funny or even just embarrassing, because while the White House is busy gaslighting reporters, the rest of the world is watching, reacting, and drawing conclusions of its own. This is not normal. Gavin Newsom was in the audience at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland on Wednesday, and he watched Donald Trump ramble on in one of the unhinged speeches for over an hour, delivering that familiar MAGA brand of falsehoods, exaggerations, and attacks on allies and enemies alike. And get this, Trump even name-checked Newsom during the speech. And here's the bottom line. What we all saw should not be graded on a curve. That's the point Gavin Newsom drove home, and he's absolutely right. Donald Trump keeps getting treated like the rules don't apply to him, like incoherence is just part of the act, like the rest of the world is supposed to just adjust. No, that is not normal. There's something seriously wrong with Donald Trump. This should be the moment people finally admit what the reality is. A 25th Amendment conversation. Newsom mocked the submissive posture of world leaders who keep trying to manage Trump instead of confronting him. He said he should have brought knee pads because too many leaders are still treating Trump like some force of nature instead of what he actually is, a problem that needs to be confronted head on. And then Newsom nailed it with the metaphor that stuck. He said, it's like a T-Rex. You either stand up to him or you don't. There is no middle ground. You either push back or you let him have his way with you. And here's the thing. While some world leaders are still trying to treat Donald Trump with kid gloves, flattering him, dangling Nobel Prizes, offering worn-out airplanes, or just hoping they can wait him out, others aren't playing that game anymore. The United Kingdom's Keir Starmer made it clear that threats, tariffs, and territorial fantasies are not how serious countries operate, and that bullies don't get rewarded for intimidation. Emmanuel Macron was just as direct, emphasizing strength, unity, and collective resolve, not appeasement, as the only way to deal with authoritarian behavior. This was the spirit at Davos. Because while some leaders still think they can manage Donald Trump, others understand exactly what Gavin Newsom was talking about. Appeasement doesn't calm him down. It actually feeds him. So if there's one message to take away from Davos, and one message you send to bullies like Donald Trump, you only have to look at Denmark's response. Danish MEP Anders Vistisen laid down the history first. He reminded everyone that Greenland has been a part of the Danish kingdom for roughly 800 years, that it is not for sale, and that it belongs to the people who live there, not to Donald Trump, not to the United States, and not to anyone else. Because this so-called national security priority Trump keeps talking about, claiming it's about countering Russian and Chinese influence in the Arctic, isn't being accepted by anyone as legitimate. The United States has had a presence in Greenland before. If it wants cooperation, it can ask. What you don't do is threaten invasion, attack allies, or try to use American tax dollars without congressional approval and without the consent of the Greenlandic people to satisfy some demented territorial fantasy. And that's why the response has been so clear. It's not just Denmark saying no. It's not just Greenland saying no. It's the world saying no. Because this isn't diplomacy. It isn't security policy. And it sure as hell isn't normal. So when Vistisen cut through the nonsense and put it in words Donald Trump actually understands, Mr. President, F off. That was clarity. And that's exactly what the world is telling Donald Trump right now. And does it really surprise you? Because it shouldn't. Sappers clear the way, airborne all the way.